Welcome to episode 9 of Fiction Friday. I'm Heather Shoemaker, author of books for kids and adults. And this edition of Fiction Friday is dedicated to Lillian in California. Hi, Lillian. She wrote to me near the beginning of lockdown and said, I've just finished reading The Griffins of Castle Carey. I really liked it. I was just wondering if you could write a second book and make it a series. Yes, Lillian, I hope to. I will tell you more about book 2 in this episode. For all of those who have already read The Griffins of Castle Carey, I know many of you have written to me asking for the second book. So I'll tell you more about my ideas for the second book coming up. But, when you write a book, I like a book that will wrap up. So if you read the book, that you're not left too dangling at the end. So this book completely wraps up, but it does leave a little hint at the end that there might be something more coming. So I'm just going to read a little bit there. And then home, said Meg. I'll be glad to be home. No ghosts there. Not exactly, said Will. Meg stopped walking and looked at him. What do you mean, not exactly? She demanded. Now there's a little bit more, but I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read the book. So there's a few hints at the end that, this is not the end of the ghosts and that the Griffin children will have more adventures. So before I get into telling you some inside secrets about the sequel, I wanted to give you some writing tips and challenge you in your own writing of your own stories. So have you ever played a game like charades where you try to act out an idea or a word without actually ever saying that word? Well, sometimes writing is a little bit like charades. So you're trying to get people to understand what the word is that you have in mind without using that word. For example, if your character is cold, or maybe your character is afraid, can you tell us how that character is feeling without ever using the word cold or without using the word afraid? And I challenge you to try to do that and see what happens. See how that changes your writing. So for example, if your character is freezing cold and in an icy cave, how could you explain that to us without using the word cold? So for example, you might say she was shivering. What else? Her teeth were chattering. She put on 10 blankets. Her toes were still tingling at the tips. She had icicles dripping from her ears. Whatever you can do to make us feel that cold without using the word cold. Or with afraid, how would somebody act? Or maybe your character's an animal. How would that animal act if they were afraid? Sad, any of these words will do. So sad, can you convey to us how your character is feeling sad without using the word sad? Well, the first thing that comes to mind would be crying, right? So he cried. What else could you say? You could give a description of what's happening. There was 12 crumpled tissues sitting next to his elbow. This is starting to get that we get the picture that he's not just sad, he's really sad, okay? So this is my challenge to you. See if you can do that. Give us little hints about what's going on, but don't totally tell us the word that had the feeling of your character that you're trying to convey. So write something without using the word, play this game of charades with your writing, and then read it aloud to somebody and see if they can guess the idea that you're trying to get across. See if that works. See if they can guess it. All right, I'm going to put on my story cape. And I actually have, these are all the ideas that stick to us that go into our stories and books. So if you're going to write about an icy cave, the icy cave would be on here. But I'm going to choose this one today because this is the idea that I'm going to use for my second book of the Griffins. And this idea has been churning around in my head. It's the idea of the wild hunt. Now, there's a lot of legends in Europe And one of them that's a very old legend, it pops up in many countries, is this idea of the wild hunt. The wild hunt is kind of a ghostly hunt where people on horseback are riding through the sky, and they have hunting dogs with them, and they've got their horses, and they've got their hunting weapons, and they ride through the sky, magically flying through the sky on a special night, usually Midsummer's Eve. And this is a pretty scary, ghostly procession. So on the wild hunt, if you encounter the wild hunt, there's various things that might happen, but basically the legend goes that you're never seen again. You get caught up in this perpetual ghostly ride through the sky. And so this always seems very dramatic to me, to be flying on ghostly horses through the sky. And I had the idea of using the wild hunt. The tentative title for the next book is The Griffins and the Wild Hunt, because these Griffin kids have a special ability to find ghosts, and they're going to encounter the wild hunt. But remember, I said there are hunting dogs with this story, not just the horses and the hunters. And there's a dog in the Griffins of Castle Carey, and he's going to get so excited about these ghostly dogs barking that he's going to just jump into the wild hunt and leap into the sky, and then Will or somebody's going to jump after him without even thinking about it. So now we've got kids and the dog going through the sky. How are they going to get out of it? Because supposedly nobody does. How are they going to get out of it? Well, I haven't quite figured that part out yet. That's part of the fun of writing a book, is you get an idea and then you sort of see where it leads you. But I think these Griffin kids are pretty smart, and they are going to find a way to get out of the ghostly wild hunt. But I think it would be another suspenseful, page-turning adventure. So that's a little taste of what I've been working on in my mind to write some new chapters and a new book, possibly, about the Griffins and the wild hunt. So stay tuned. All right, I have today's joke for you. What is a monster's favorite game? What is a monster's favorite game? Swallow the leader. Did you like that one? All right, so speaking about monsters, I wanted to recommend a book for you. Now, this is a picture book. It's called Rama and the Demon King, and this is one of my favorites. So first of all, if you think you're too big for picture books, please reconsider, because a good book is a good book, and it doesn't matter how old you are. I love reading picture books, and I know a lot of people of all ages read picture books. So just because you can read a bigger book doesn't mean that you have to give up reading picture books. And this is one, Rama and the Demon King, that is kind of amazing. Not only does it have cool pictures, can you see how many heads he has? But this is telling one of the most famous stories in the world. It's telling the story of the Ramayana, which is many thousands of years old, and it's one of the most famous epics in all the world. And it puts it down into a picture book form. Now, obviously, it can't tell the entire story, because if you really wanted to hear all of the Ramayana, it would probably take more than 24 hours to tell the entire story in all its glory. I've even been to an overnight reading of the Ramayana, and you stay up all night long and they keep telling the story and keep telling the story and keep telling the story, and you're getting sleepy, but the story is very, very long. But this book does a pretty good job of introducing you, if you don't know the story, and having some of the most famous scenes. So the guy on the front is the Demon King named Ravana. He has 10 heads. He's a pretty fearsome guy. And it has some of the famous scenes like Rama chasing the golden deer, that Rama is the prince. And it has wonderful characters like Hanuman, who is the leader of the monkey army, who helps Prince Rama. And of course, it has some very action-packed scenes with battles and so on. So I wanted to show you a couple of more pictures about Prince Rama and Ravana, the Demon King, because this story is famous, as I say, throughout a lot of the world. So here is a picture of the Demon King. There he is with all his 10 heads. And here is a picture of Hanuman. Now there are so many different pictures you can have of Hanuman because Hanuman and Ravana and Prince Rama are famous throughout India and Cambodia and Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia and so many countries in Southeast Asia. So he looks different in many different countries. This is more or less what he often looks like in Thailand, for example. But in Indonesia, he looks quite different. So this would be a shadow puppet version of Hanuman. So you could shine a light and just see the shadow of him. And he can look, again, differently. Here's an action figure toy for kids of Hanuman. There's his tail. So Hanuman can look many, many different ways, and so can all the main characters in the book. This story is a story that is well known by every child and about 2 billion people in the world. 2 billion people know this story very well. For some people, it's part of their religion, and for some people, it's part of their culture. But you can get introduced to it too and learn some of these amazing stories and characters that have been with us for thousands of years in human history. So I am only going to give one book recommendation today because I also want to let you have a chance to win some books. This is our last day to do some book giveaways, and I have some picture books as well as you can always win a copy of The Griffins of Castle Carey in paperback, and I will sign it and send it to you. Now, I said you can always win. I announced it last week, but the deadline for getting your name in to win a picture book or the Griffins is May 20th. And if you're watching this video later in a different year, please know that this is May 20th, 2020. So let me show you some of the books that we're going to be able to give away. And these books, all of these books are written by Michigan authors, and Michigan authors are giving a gift to you. If you live in the US because of shipping reasons, this is a gift to you wherever you live in the US to give you a book because we know lockdown is tough. So here are some picture books by Michigan authors who will sign it for you and then ship it to your door. One is How the Moon Regained Her Shape by Janet Ruth Heller. And the other one I'm showing you on this page is Season of the Great Bird by Marianne Lawrence. Both of these books have gorgeous artwork. Both of them deal with coping with difficulties, but then coming out and having hope and strength and courage on the other side. And they both draw on legends and folk tales. So if you are interested in winning one of these beautiful books, just send me your name and I'm going to show you a couple other books you might be interested in. These books are a little bit more realistic. So The Mighty Mac is a story of the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan, which is a gorgeous bridge. And if you've ever, 5 miles long, if you've ever come to our state, then you will know what an amazing bridge this is. And so is its story. This book is by Jackie Sewell. And the other book I wanted to share with you for possibly winning this book is called A Doll for Grandma. And this book is by Paulette Sharkey. And it's a story about Alzheimer's disease, which is when you lose your memory. So in this story, the grandmother is forgetting things and how you can still take care of people when things like that happen to them. This is a beautiful picture book about Alzheimer's disease, told very nicely. And it's brand new. It just came out last week, May 2020. How do you win a book? Just send a note. You can find my email on my website, heathershoemaker.com. Send me a note. Tell me which book you'd like to win, if you're one of the people who wins, then I will tell the author and they will send you a signed copy of their book and it'll be mailed to your address. So you could either win a picture book or you could win a copy of The Griffins of Castle Cary. If you have a preference, let me know. Remember, it's only for people who live in the US because that's where we can pay for the shipping. So this is a gift because after 9 weeks of schools being shut down and lockdown, it's getting a little bit old. And I know that you're probably wishing you could do some different things right now. So because we recognize that this is hard for you and you're doing a really good job, as everybody is coping with the pandemic, we'd like to send you a little special something for you to read and have something new in your life. So please let me know if you would like to win one of these really cool books from a Michigan author. And all you need to do is send a note and maybe tell me something. Tell me the kind of books you like to read, or tell me something that you've done that's been kind for others during lockdown. Maybe you celebrated somebody's birthday in a special way. Give me a little story about what you've been up to, or maybe what kind of book that you're writing, because I'd love that you are writing books during lockdown. All right, if you like these videos, remember to subscribe so you get a notice when each new one comes. And if you know somebody who would like to have a show dedicated to them, let me know, or maybe you'd like a show dedicated to you or one of the kids in your family. So send me a note. I would love to dedicate a show to you. This is what one of the families said who had a show dedicated in a past episode. The kids were so tickled. They were tickled pink to hear themselves mentioned and even quoted on the real live internet. So send me a note, tell me how you're doing, send me a joke. Maybe I can dedicate a show to you. And Lillian, I hope you enjoyed your show, your episode of Fiction Friday. Go ahead and enter the contest. Maybe you'll even win a brand new book. That's all for this week. See you next time. Bye.